Howard entered Parliament in 1974. It was a turbulent time. The next year, the Liberals would engineer the dismissal of the Whitlam Labor government.
He was, for many, regarded as a hero by the press, by the media, and they found that hard to overcome. And we'd pulled him down. I think John Howard has publicly said that he's had latter-day doubts about whether that should have been done. He wasn't opposed to that decision then.
With ambition as his mentor, Howard was careful not to fall out with his Prime Minister. He was quickly rewarded with a junior ministry.
Howard made a big success of his ministerial opportunity. He's always been somebody who follows rules. I don't think Malcolm Fraser saw anything more than a very competent junior minister at the time.
And by 1977, he'd only been in the Parliament then 3 years, he was Treasurer at a young age. And again, John Howard had reason to be grateful to Malcolm Fraser.
I just happened to be in the right time at the right place. I hope one of the elements in it was ability, but I wouldn't claim that it was all due to that. I think there is an element of, fortuitous circumstances in it as well.
I thought he was able, industrious. He could master a brief, and going through the ministers that might do the job, I thought he'd do it as well as any and better than most.
Howard had some different ideas on financial policy. For 30 years, Western governments had intervened strongly in the economy in pursuit of stability and fairness. But the conventional wisdom was changing. Economic rationalism was on the rise, and a belief that government should leave the economy to market forces.
We were sort of thinking aloud about whether or not he could become leader again. And I told him he could never be the king again. He could never be the leader. He could never be Prime Minister. All he could be would be the kingmaker.
I was the deputy leader. I was actually senior to Howard in 1994. And he came and he sought my agreement to stand aside and to help him become leader, which I gave.
I think when it comes to tenacity, John Howard is almost in a class by himself. And there must have been times when he probably thought that no one except his family had any faith in him, and that probably would have been justified for him to have felt that way. The fact that there were so many naysayers is probably what motivated him to keep going.
He really sublimated everything to winning.
The party has, for the first time in 30 years, unanimously elected a leader. By its decision today, the Liberal Party has given new heart and hope to millions of Australians throughout this country who are aching for an alternative government.
Prime Minister Paul Keating announced the election date today, and he says it'll be about leadership and the opposition's lack of vision.
Here we go again.
Opposition leader John Howard signalled he'd be running on the It's Time theme.
13 years in government is a long time in anybody's language. This man has run out of steam. There was that feeling of great hunger for change. Not just a question of, oh, well, they've been a pretty good government and we quite like them, but it's probably time for a change. It was more visceral than that.
You asshole! Get a job!
I didn't say go get a job. Huh? I didn't say go get a job.
Huh?
Imagine another 3 years of it.
Australia in 1996 was 5 years out of recession, but to most voters it still felt like a recession.
He's rolling himself into the smallest ball possible.
There are hundreds of thousands of Australians who have always voted for your party, and they are literally aching for the opportunity to vote against you at the next election.
The mood amongst Labor people is very pessimistic.
Labor's going to lose between 20 and 30 seats, and the coalition majority is going to be around the 40-seat margin.
I'm feeling quite sick, disgusted and in shock. I think it'll take Australia back to the back 30, 40 years.
Absolutely delighted.
He's not a show pony.
I don't mind which street he's living in, but I'm very glad he's the Prime Minister.
My feelings were one of sort of pride. Pride in this man who had been through so many ups and downs and had been whacked from pillar to post. And then, after all of that, his country had said, John Howard, we'd like you to lead us.
We have been elected with a mandate. We have not been elected to be just a pale imitation of the government that we have replaced.